Tonight, countdown to the long-awaited ceasefire in Gaza. What's in the deal between Israel and Hamas?
We're able to have a moment to breathe.
These are not going to be the same family members that we lost.
And the uncertain optimism at home and in the Middle East.
Who's in the history books credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke?
Clashing over who should get credit. And Joe Biden's stark warning tonight in his final address as president from the Oval Office.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America.
Plus, which province exposed a critical divide at the summit between the prime minister and premiers to tackle Donald Trump's tariff threat? Why the U.S. is banning a popular red dye found in candy, drinks, and snacks. Will Canada? And sporting a new political look.
A cheeky rebuttal to the Trump hat.
The Canadian take on an American-style cap.
Astounded, flabbergasted.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We begin with a major breakthrough that is bringing cautious joy and jubilation in the Middle East tonight and raising hopes that a bloody war will finally come to an end. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin has the details and when the truce takes effect.
Chants and bursts of celebratory gunfire echoed over Gaza as word of a ceasefire deal spread. Some Palestinians read hope in this pause of the devastating 15-month war. We want to sleep in peace, says this man in Gaza City. We have prayed to God every hour for the war to stop. Negotiators in Doha officially announced that after weeks of talks, a deal on phase 1 of an agreement had finally been reached. During an initial 42-day ceasefire that would see Israeli forces withdraw from populated areas, 33 of about 100 remaining hostages would be reunited with loved ones. This in exchange for the release of a number of Palestinian detainees and for up to 600 trucks of desperately needed humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza. Details of a second and third phase aimed at ending the conflict will be negotiated during the pause in fighting. But there could still be hurdles. Crucial votes in Israel to ratify the agreement are yet to come. Still, several families of those taken on October 7th, 2023, feared this day might never come. Demands from both sides seemed a world apart.
It's like a roller coaster. I'm not breathing right now. We don't know if they're on the list, if they're going to come back in the first phase, if they're alive.
They also worry now that captives left behind after the first phase could be killed. Still, while much needs to be resolved, like what a post-war Gaza may look like if that comes, this deal offers the first sign of hope in months that this deadly and destructive war could end. A key mediator said this agreement would come into force on Sunday for a ceasefire so many around the world are now watching. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News.
The ceasefire is also bringing a sense of relief for many Canadians who've been anxiously and helplessly watching the conflict from thousands of kilometers away. Tonight, as CTV's Adrian Gobrio reports, there is a fragile hope.
For 467 days, this is a region of the world that has been longing for hope. That is, until now.
We're able to have a moment to breathe, knowing that there won't be any bombs falling through the sky.
Nora Sharab has more than 50 family members in Gaza. This is a photo of her cousin, sitting where his bedroom once was. A ceasefire brings both optimism and a reality check.
When I spoke to my uncle this morning, he said, you know what, we're happy, but you have to remember, Nora, we have nothing. We've lost everything. We don't have our homes. We have to start from scratch.
Hope also packs a painful truth for Canadians with loved ones still held hostage, who could be released in a matter of days.
These are not going to be the same family members that we lost. And every single one of the families is going to have to get to know a new version of the person they lost. And that breaks my heart.
Romy Gonen turned 24 in captivity. shot in the arm and abducted while attending the Supernova Music Festival. Her cousin, Maureen Lashem, has been advocating for her release each day since her disappearance on October 7th.
To say we're on edge is an understatement. I feel it's close, and we're holding on to every single ounce of hope.
News of sustained plans for a ceasefire prompting this statement from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
It means we can see the light at the end of the tunnel to hopefully put an end to this horrific war that has taken the lives of far too many innocents. Canada stands ready to do whatever it can to ensure the success of this agreement.
Which is far from a guarantee. Any sense of calm comes with the feeling of fragility in Gaza. This is a place where peace has been painfully out of reach for what feels like an eternity.
Those we spoke with are mindful that previous ceasefires have failed, though this is the first deal with a long-term plan already in place. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. And the ceasefire was the first topic Joe Biden brought up in his final address from the Oval Office late tonight. The roughly 20-minute speech all about defining his political legacy ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon joins us now. And Joy, Biden looked to the past, but also to the future. And he had a warning. What did he have to say tonight?
Hey, Omar. As Joe Biden closes out his final days as president, the ceasefire hostage deal is a personal victory, a moment he wanted to celebrate tonight.
After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas.
Earlier, Donald Trump beat him to the punch, taking credit on social media, posting, "This epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory using peace through strength." Biden said he instructed his team to work with Trump's people because they'll have to implement this deal, brushing off a reporter who asked who deserved the credit, Trump or him.
Is that a joke? Oh.
After 50 years in politics, in his farewell speech, Biden touted his achievements, steering Americans out of the COVID crisis, defying predictions of a recession, investing in building roads and bridges, combating climate change, and investing in clean energy. The list is long, but warning of what he called an oligarchy of power directed at Donald Trump.
We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office.
Critics argue Biden stayed on too long. His stubborn refusal to leave the race, critics argue, cost the Democrats the election, returning Trump to the White House. Biden closed with this.
After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame.
Taking his final bow from the Oval Office, Joe Biden hopes that history will be kind. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. The next president was top of mind at a critical summit between premiers and the prime minister in Ottawa today, most of them supporting the idea of keeping all options on the table in response to Donald Trump's tariff threat. But one premier who joined the meeting virtually did not sign the joint agreement. CTV's senior political correspondent Michael Couture on which one and why.
I'm definitely on Team Canada.
A message of unity was on every premier's mind and on Doug Ford's head.
This is about putting the country first, making sure that President Trump doesn't try to divide us. That's exactly what he's trying to do.
With the threat of 25% tariffs looming, they all wanted to send a strong statement to incoming President Donald Trump.
We will make sure that we are there to show what this country is made of. At the same time, we've also agreed that no one region of the country should disproportionately bear the burden of standing up for all other Canadians.
It's why the Prime Minister and Premiers agreed that all options should remain on the table when it comes to retaliatory tariffs, including cutting off the roughly 4 million barrels of Canadian oil that goes south every day.
I'm joined here around the table.
Alberta's Danielle Smith joined via teleconference, but didn't join other premiers in endorsing the federal government's response. The premier wrote on social media, Alberta will simply not agree to export tariffs on our energy or other products, nor do we support a ban on exports of these same products. Smith's rebuke drew a sharp response from fellow premiers.
But by taking that off the table immediately means that we have definitively reduced our negotiating strategy, and I think it's a really short-sighted view.
I respect that she's concerned about protecting her energy, and that's her choice. That is her choice. But I have a little different theory. I have a different theory that protect your jurisdiction, but country comes first.
All of this as Canada unveiled more details about our $1.3 billion plan to secure the border with the U.S., which includes leasing 2 Black Hawk helicopters and the purchase of 60 drones to patrol the airspace. But Canada's ambassador to the U.S. said those measures may not guarantee our country will avoid Trump's tariffs. Omar.
All right, Mike, thanks. To the devastation in Southern California now, where the battle against the 2 biggest wildfires is far from over. But there is some progress on the front lines, thanks in part to Canadian reinforcements. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson.
A CL-415 aircraft, better known as a Super Scooper, takes off from Quebec City. Destination, the Southern California fire zone.
We're sending 2 more planes to California to help them because they help us in 2023. We know that when we need help, they're going to come here.
There will now be 4 of the Canadian-made water bombers and 18 crew working to douse flames in Los Angeles County.
It's really a tragedy, big tragedy over here with the neighborhood all burned down.
Ontario is also sending 2 CL-415 south, and that province has more than 150 urban firefighters on standby waiting for a call. Some good news today from the disaster zone. There's been little to no growth in the 2 largest fires, Eaton and Palisades, over the past day. And powerful Santa Ana winds have not kicked up as much as expected.
I urge everyone to stay alert. The danger has not yet passed.
Air quality isn't good. 17 million people are under advisories for wind-blown ash and dust. Downed power lines are among the hazards, keeping people in the hardest hit areas from returning to ruined neighborhoods. It's an overwhelming moment for the few who are able to gain access.
Oh my God, it's gone. It's gone.
But there is also a sweet return today of a different sort.
Welcome back guys, welcome back.
The young students at 2 Pacific Palisades elementary schools destroyed by fire are back in class a few kilometers away.
We're excited to go back to some normalcy for the kids.
Children who may have lost both their school and their home, somehow still grateful.
I'm just really happy that they let us come in.
A small step forward in a region that could sure use a smile. Andrew Johnson, CTV News.
A sense of normalcy coming up.
If something causes cancer in humans or animals, it is not supposed to be an additive in the food supply.
The fake color additive, that's a very real threat. Plus, fighting for her life after a horrific hit and run. A popular food additive found in everything from milkshakes to maraschino cherries to frosting is being banned by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The move comes after the synthetic dye was found to increase the risk of cancer in rats. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on when the ban takes effect and what steps Canada is taking.
A synthetic color additive made from petroleum, red dye number 3 gives foods and drinks a bright cherry red color. Now the product has been banned in the U.S. by the FDA because of a cancer risk.
Back in the 1980s, a series of industry-conducted studies proved without question that red dye number 3 causes cancer in male rats.
Red dye number 3 is found in foods like fruit cocktail, maraschino cherries, puddings, protein shakes, and candy. The move by the FDA comes 35 years after red dye number 3 was barred from cosmetics and externally applied drugs. U.S. manufacturers have until January 2027 to remove the dye from the food. Makers of drugs must reformulate their products by January 2028. Going forward, manufacturers that import food into the U.S. must also comply with the ban. Red dye number 3 is still legal in Canada. In an email to CTV News, Health Canada cited a UN report from 2018 and said red dye number 3 does not pose a health risk to the general Canadian population. Dr. Peter Leary was hoping Canada would follow the FDA's lead.
Very often, the U.S. authorities look north of the border for direction about the best way to approach for a public health problem. This is a chance for the Canadians to look south.
McMaster University professor Waliu Khan says there are moves Health Canada could make in the future.
Like putting warning labels on the food containing these dyes.
Khan says red dye number 3 is used in a lot of our food supply, but it offers no nutritional value. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
A troubling new snapshot tonight of the critical state of Canadian healthcare, showing that a staggering number of patients are dying while waiting for access to critical surgery and diagnostic testing. CTV's Heather Wright on the growing desperation and a potential solution.
Across the country, thousands of Canadians are on some sort of medical wait list, be it for a new hip, an MRI, or life-saving surgery. And according to a study from 2nd Street and Alberta-based think tank, thousands of people are dying before getting the treatment they need.
I think really the numbers show that we have a system in crisis right across the country. And it's very sad because it doesn't have to be this way.
Between 2023 and 2024, at least 15,474 patients in Canada died while waiting for a range of surgeries, procedures, or scans, according to provincial data obtained by 2nd Street. The organization says the figure is likely much higher, as not all governments track data about waitlist deaths.
It was very frightening.
Melanie Leeson was diagnosed with peritoneal cancer 1 year ago. She waited months for a biopsy in British Columbia, far longer than the guidelines of 43 days.
And here I am at 111, untreated and getting worse by the day. So I fled to the States.
According to the Canadian Institute for Health Information, more surgeries are being performed, bouncing back after a significant dip during the pandemic, but wait times are still long.
Time is everything. Delayed diagnosis means much, much lower likelihood of an accurate diagnosis being made and of acceptable treatment being rendered.
2nd Street says Canada should adopt models similar to those being used in Europe, such as tying funding to timely procedures. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Well, for many, the new year comes with a new resolve to shed some pounds, but now there's a push to do away with body mass index as a metric to define and diagnose obesity.
What we should be doing to estimate your risk of having a heart attack or stroke is talking about your family history, doing your blood pressure, doing your actual blood levels.
The report published in The Lancet says BMI alone can over or underestimate the amount of fat on a person's body and doesn't provide enough information about their health. It recommends adding other measures like waist size and evidence of other health issues. More than 1 billion people worldwide are thought to be living with obesity. Still ahead, a hit-and-run victim clings to life. The shocking moment of impact caught on video.
We ain't even out in Turks, you finna take sand. Riding around with F and then we like to hold hands.
And how Drake is escalating the legal battle against his record label. Canadian hip-hop star Drake is suing Universal Music for defamation over Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
The lawsuit filed in New York alleges the label promoted the song even though it included false pedophilia allegations and suggested listeners resort to vigilante justice in response. The suit goes on to say that led to a shooting outside Drake's Toronto mansion last May that injured a security guard, attempted break-ins, and a hit to Drake's brand right before his contract renegotiation with the label. The label says the claims are untrue and illogical, given that they've, quote, worked tirelessly for many years to help him achieve historic commercial and personal financial success. And police in Toronto are searching for a car and driver in a horrific hit and run. Video shared with CTV News shows the woman in her 20s crossing the street as a car speeds towards her. The force of the impact sent her flying several feet. Police say she was crossing at an intersection on a green light.
After reviewing the footage from our security cameras, it seems that the victim was laying right here for about 20 minutes.
Police say she's in hospital with life-threatening injuries. Canada's chief science advisor is calling for a dedicated service for reporting and studying unidentified flying objects. A new report from the Sky Canada Project recommends a service that would collect testimony, combat misinformation, and share analysis with the public. The preliminary report is the first of its kind in Canada in nearly 30 years. A full version is expected later this year. Still ahead, a political fashion makeover.
Would you wear a hat like that? I would wear a badge, a hat, whatever, but in my heart it's inscribed. I'm a Canadian.
Move over mega cap. Ontario's premier throws his hat into the ring with a clear message for the incoming president. A Canadian political player fired back at the U.S. president-elect's threats to turn Canada into the 51st state, with a move some are now hanging their hats on. Here's CTV's John Venavelli-Rao.
Call it the Battle of the Ball Caps. In one corner, the lid Trump made famous, and in the other, a new Canadian contender proudly promoted atop Premier Doug Ford's head.
This is about everyday Canadians standing up for their country.
The message, simple, bold, and embroidered, created by an Ottawa-based branding company that's seen a sudden crush of online orders after Ford donned a cap himself.
A real thrill, very proud to be Canadian, very proud to be an Ontarian.
The guy behind the company, Liam Mooney, used to be a political fundraiser.
I would consider it a privilege to be taken over by the United States of America.
He and his partner were repulsed by comments made by a Fox News host to Premier Ford last week and thought this response would resonate with fellow Canadians.
We heard the way that Jesse Waters was talking about Canada, this idea that it would be a privilege to be an American. Well, I've got news for those folks. It's a privilege to be Canadian, and it's an amazing privilege.
Do you see lots of Canadians wearing hats like that?
I mean, maybe one day. It depends how crazy this gets.
They've got a second hat for sale with patriotic words from the anthem. And in keeping with being Canadian, the hats are available in English and French. Could this hat catch on, do you think?
I don't think it's gonna be, no. Like the Make America Great Again was just too good and too catchy.
Would you wear a hat like that?
I would wear a badge, a hat, whatever, but in my heart it's inscribed. I'm a Canadian, I respect other countries, but we are not for sale.
Notably, the hats are currently manufactured in Asia, but Mooney hopes eventually they'll be 100% Canadian made. And Ford saying it's an example of how we can unite. John Venavelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast. Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Watch weeknights at 11.